Deadly winter storms pass through the area, my area in particular, but also we get some pretty nasty ones going down south of me. For the most part, our roads are fine here in Wisconsin, but for those of you in Ohio, North Carolina, Oklahoma, places like that, I feel for you. But I don't feel for you too much because it was damn cold up here in the midst of that. We're going to talk a bit about this and what happened there and what the next steps are for the people who are digging themselves out of this. In other news, guess what? We're looking at a shutdown again. Because it's a day that ends in Y. We could have the government partially shut down. They say 3/4 shut down by the beginning of Saturday. So we're going to talk about how we got here, how nobody paid attention to the fact that we got here, and what it is that our friends on the Democrat side are willing to shut the government down over this time. So we'll go over that, what's happening with that, and where we go from there. Based on the title and the fact that you're here, what's on our mind, what's on your mind, what's on everybody's mind right now? We are going to talk a bit about what is happening in Minneapolis. We're not going to talk about it in a news sense, though, this time. I hate to tell you this. We are going to look at some news articles from this, but it's going to be a little bit more analytical because I've watched everything that's happening and I've watched the propaganda that comes out of this, and we could sit and read news articles from the Daily Wire and from CNN and from insert right-wing news source here and insert left-wing news source here all day long, and they're just going to fight about the details of the same story. And I want to talk just a bit more about the deeper implications of what's happening with this and the fact that no matter what happens, we always will get different stories based mostly on who we voted for in the presidential election. We are going to talk about that and what's happening with this, where we go from there, and if we get to it, because I have a hard out again today, we're going to talk a bit about Greenland, because in the midst of all the chaos going on in the Twin Cities, it looks like we actually might come to a conclusion on something that we've been talking about since the end of Trump term 1. So we'll talk about that, what's happening there, and what we do with that. It is going to be all of this and more here in Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, get some breakfast, find some friends, keep your eyes on the road if you're listening to this in lieu of the AM radio, and we will see you on the other side of the break. And I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I see Decca is already in the chat saying that he's here for the insanity. Are you here for the insanity, or are you here because you can't get out of your house right now? I mean, thankfully, that's going to be the lead story today, instead of going through and talking about why this episode is titled The Fog of War. And yes, for the cold open, I apologize. I don't know if it was just the Windows setting itself that went back and did this because of background noise and everything else, but my microphone was turned way the F down. Typically I keep it at 99 to 100% input. It was at 86. I was already talking and I looked over and I noticed the, because I've got an input monitor sitting over here on my screen, so I can see how loudly I'm speaking, especially as it reflects against the background music. But which, by the way, I got to take that down a little bit too. These headphones are a little bit quieter than my last ones, so it sounds like it's quieter than what it was compared to what I used with these ones. So actually watching the monitor and seeing what's actually there versus how I'm talking is how I determine what I need to do with both my microphone and the background music. Anyway, hi, good morning. J. Edgar here. We've got a lot to talk about and not a lot of time to do it. We got some stuff going on throughout the day in my household, so, well, we're going to get done with what we have here, and I'm going to go do the stuff, and you're going to go do the stuff, and we're all going to be happy and jolly and nice. Unlike the people who are about an hour to the west of here. Yes. We have propagandists from both sides trying to foment this into a full-scale civil war. And yes, I love the Hexenhammer to death. I love listening to his content. I have been doing so... How long have I been listening to the Hexenhammer? I've been listening to the Hexenhammer since 2018. Every day. But even there, when I'm sitting here, I'm starting to think, is this propaganda, and are they trying to come? Is he trying to come out and foment us into a civil war? And meanwhile, a small beanie-clad man in West Virginia wanders the forest, probably wading through waist-deep of snow based on his small stature. At this point, given what we're going to talk about in the news to start with here, just muttering to himself, "Civil war, civil war, it's a civil war, oh, civil war, civil war." I love making fun of Tim. It's such an easy target because he tries to point himself off as this major grassroots influencer that has never taken a dollar from anybody else, and we all know that he is a former Disney guy. Oh, look! We went offline again. Completely disconnected, attempting to reconnect. Oh, Spectrum. Oh, you're going to do these things to me again here. For those of you who are catching back up, we went offline for just a second. Might have to go fix something. I might have to throw the title card up and just double check and wriggle the actual connection on the back of my computer just to make sure that that's not what's causing that. Let me throw the title card up here. I'll leave the microphone on and talk to you guys for just a sec while I'm doing this. But I have to wonder if that's just not what happened there. Give me just a second. Ethernet is tight in here. Let's go check where the router is. Yeah, everything looks like it was tight, so I don't know, but there was a box that had fallen on the router, so I'm wondering if it wasn't just overheating midst in here. I mean, it's a cool room, so you wouldn't think it would overheat, but if you've got a box that's sitting here on the on the major vent than that could be, no matter how cold that room gets. Anyway, good morning. I'm Jay Edgar. This is Contemporary. We've got a lot of stuff to go over here today, including some stuff that I added right on the cusp of getting started here because, hey, we're going to go do 2020 election fraud again. That's going to be fun. Of course, we're going to come back and talk about this. Without further ado, since we are running a bit on a time schedule, let's get right down into it, shall we? Let's get the chat up here. Oh, I got the chat fixed, by the way, so I can come back out and actually see what's going on and see what you guys are doing. So, I don't know why I can't move it. That's weird, but anyway. Yeah, we'll leave that there. We'll do this, and we'll get started. Double check everything, make sure everything is running. Get our kick going, get our D-Live going. By the way, if you're dissatisfied with your platform, and I hope that you're not, you can always go back and check out various platforms like we're on YouTube, we are on Twitch, we're on D-Live. You can go check it out on Rumble, and you don't have to worry about those pesky YouTube regulations over on Rumble. Those are fun. Don't have to come back and worry about any of this stuff. We're on Kick. It's not a very popular platform right now. We're in a lot of places. So, hey, if you like the Boomer Book, we're even there. Yeah, you can go follow the page on the Boomer Book. The creator will never ever bug you on there or respond to anything that you post on the wall because, let's be frank, I haven't opened the Boomer Book app since 2018. I have one. I physically have a Facebook. I haven't opened it since 2018. Uh-oh. We have a commercial going on here. Why? Stupid Game Chops. No, it's not Stupid Game Chops. It's Stupid YouTube. Anyway, let's get started. Let's do this. Let's do the thing. On the news for the day, we're going to start our morning with the Dow, as we often do, talking about what's going on in our markets. It looks like they stayed kind of jump ropey steady yesterday, closing slightly below the previous close, but recovering from a very significant dip and seeing some very significant rises throughout the day. Let's get a refresh. Let's get our latest stories on the futures and the stock market today. We'll go with IBD for the morning. Dow futures rise as Meta jumps, Microsoft slumps, Elon Musk plans Tesla CapEx surge. I've been out of the loop long enough, I actually don't know what CapEx is, so I'll be interested to find out what's going on with that. This is from Ed Carson. Dow futures rose slightly early Thursday along with the S&P and the NASDAQ. Tesla, Microsoft, and Meta headlined a huge night of earnings. Elon Musk touted. Wow, I just completely lost my place on that. Elon Musk touted robo-taxis, but also massive capital spending growth. Microsoft and Meta CapEx guidance is huge for the entire AI ecosystem, including NVIDIA. I hate to say it, it's weird because I said I was never going to do any of this stuff, but I'll be talking a little bit about AI when we talk about things that I like. And a project that I've been working on a little bit with the AI, and it kind of refueled an interest in a past project that I'd been working on as well. Anyway. The market rally gave up initial gains Wednesday, with the NASDAQ hitting resistance just below all-time highs, heading into those earnings reports. The Federal Reserve holding rates steady, and Fed Chief Jerome Powell signaling a longer rate pause didn't have much impact. So they're not going to bring them down that low, but they're not going to bring them back up. A number of leaders made big gains during the session on earnings, but there were some losers. NVIDIA is on the leaderboard, Microsoft is on the IBD long-term leaders list. On the futures, the Dow futures were up 0.1% versus fair value, with Microsoft weighing on blue chips, but IBM helping. S&P climbed 0.2% and the NASDAQ rose 0.1%. Crude oil futures jumped nearly 3%. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but gas went from we'll use my local area as an example, from 229 up to 253. So there's where your 3% comes in. Gold and silver, we're up solidly. So got a few things moving in the markets, a few things to watch as we go into these kinds of things. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate to actual trading in the next regular stock market session. And the other caveat that goes along with this is anything that you see here is not intended to get you to buy certain stocks, do certain things. Always check with your financial advisor. Do not take my word for it, you guys. All right, we got to get in and talk about the weather. Let's talk about the weather. Some of you are old enough to know that reference. All right, starting with CBS News, TLDR on what we're about to read. A massive winter storm, as I talked about in the cold open, ripped across the country. In the south, and to the south of here, it was snow, it was ice, it was freezing rain, it was hell on earth, and everything else that went along with it. Up here, it just got cold. It got damn cold. I saw negative 33 at one point. I'd never seen that before. That was kind of interesting to see. Well, I'll read from Philadelphia to start with from CBS News. Philadelphia residents, businesses still digging out. Days after winter storm. It's been tough. What's sad to a person from Wisconsin is they didn't actually really get that much snow out there in Philadelphia. It's, I'm looking at the video here, and this is a normal Tuesday in January for us, what they got in Philadelphia, but the thing is to keep in mind with that, and I don't begrudge them of any of this. Same thing with the people down in Ohio that I know, that I actually know who are dealing with some of this stuff, or the people down in Oklahoma or Texas that got barely an inch and are shutting down the whole world. I get where you guys are coming from. I can look at snow like that, like what you have out here, and say, okay, well, we'll have that all cleared in just a few days. Not even a few days. We'll have that mostly cleared in a few hours. Open for business and everyone will be at the mall by 6 p.m. But the people of Philadelphia don't deal with this all the time. They don't have years upon years of brutal winters in practice figuring out how to do this. Systems in place because of that. Like, again, to me, what you see in the video on the screen, if you're watching on the video platform, I can maybe blow this up a little bit so we can see it, but yeah, what we're seeing here is not a lot of snow to me. But if you don't do it every year, yeah, I get it. I get where you're coming from. And you have my sympathy. 100%. 3 days after a winter storm blanketed Philadelphia, residents across the city were still digging out cars and clearing streets. Wednesday, while some business owners said the prolonged cleanup continues to hurt foot traffic. Snow-covered vehicles remained lined along city streets as neighbors shoveled out parking spaces and pathways well into the week. In Bella Vista, resident B. Johnson laughed as she worked to free her car from packed snow. I'm from Texas, so I have no clue how this works, Johnson said. For Johnson, the challenge wasn't just clearing the snow, it was figuring out where to put it. You can't put it on the road, you can't put it on the car, so I don't know where it's supposed to go, she said. Other residents said preparation made a difference. Stacy Bean said she was relieved she managed to buy a shovel just before the storm arrived. I've got the shovel at the last minute on Saturday before the snow came, Bean said. And again, this comes from the idea of these people don't do this all the time. For Wisconsin, you basically get a snow shovel as soon as you buy property. Your realtor comes over and brings a snow shovel and says, "Y'all are gonna need this." But out there, yeah, some of these people don't have a snow shovel. They've only ever seen what, like the damned man pointed out, was a light dusting. The city street department said plowing and salting operations remain ongoing with more than 200 dump trucks, excavators, and loaders deployed across Philadelphia. first time chatter, by the way, says, "It does not snow here, and I have a shovel. They're dumb." Thorpe, would you consider letting us know what state you're in? Don't dox yourself. Don't tell us the city. Don't tell us your address. But you tell us what state you're in. Kind of get an idea where you're coming from. California. North half or south half? For businesses, the lingering snow was meant for fewer customers, along with Market Street. Campo's Philly cheesesteaks co-owner Rick Bezos said the storm and bitter cold have resulted in lost revenue. Bay Area. Okay. I have a friend that lives over there too, and yeah, she even says that you don't get a lot of cold, or you don't get a lot of snow. You get cooler temperature than like SoCal, LA, Malibu, stuff like that. But yeah. When I told her, when her and I were co-hosting together on her show, yeah, we talked a little bit about that on and off screen, just what I told her, the level of snow that we get out here, and she couldn't believe it because she'd never seen anything like that. It's been probably close to 5 days lost business between getting the snow and the extreme cold weather, and then the dig out in the city, Bezos said. Standing inside the empty shop, Bezos said the lack of foot traffic has been challenging. So, Philly, definitely feeling it. That sounds very Final Fantasy-ish in the back. Decca says, my in-laws recently sold all their stuff, including snow shovel, thinking they were going to move from here. They haven't moved. Isn't it funny how that works sometimes? Well, welcome in, Thorpe. From Eyewitness 7 ABC, dangerous cold and tracking, another weekend winter storm. Let's read what we got going on over here. The deep freeze gripping New York City and the tri-state is only halfway through, with even more dangerous cold arriving Thursday and Friday. Wind chills will plunge well below zero, and frostbite can develop in as little as 15 to 30 minutes. Friday may be the coldest morning yet, with sub-zero readings across much of the area. Where is this ABC 7 Eyewitness out of? Do they say? Tri-state. Okay, so this is Jersey area, because there's Bridgeport and Montauk. Oh, they said it in the beginning and I missed it. The deep freeze gripping New York City and the tri-state. So this is Jersey area. It's going to get what we got here this past week. As for potential for another snowstorm this weekend, the developing coastal storm will track up the East Coast Saturday into Sunday, but current trends keep the heaviest snow well to the south, targeting Virginia and the Carolinas, and the tri-state sits on the far western edge of the system. This means light accumulation possible near the coast. Stronger winds and minor coastal flooding risk for shoreline communities, lower impacts the further west you go. While it's still too early for finalized snowfall maps, the early probabilities suggest a wide range depending on the location. So, those of you in Jersey and New York City, which have we seen Quest Fanning yet at this point? Bundle up and be prepared. From Kentucky.com, the Lexington Herald Leader. A little bit of S in the chat for this one. 11 people deceased in Kentucky after Winter Storm Fern. What we know about the victims? Well, what I know about this is we apparently named the storm, so it's not just for hurricanes anymore. This is from Valerie Honeycutt Spears. A Lowellville man living in the streets was found without shoes before he died. A Pulaski man died in a travel trailer that lost heat in the storm. F in the chat. And ambulances couldn't get through the storm fast enough to help one man suffering a heart attack. F. Big F's for that one. And another stuck in a fire, according to local officials across Kentucky who confirmed information about several people killed in Winter Storm Fern. By the way, it looks like I am dropping some frames here a little bit. doesn't seem to be too much, but a reminder for those of you who are watching, if we lose connection for whatever reason, if anything else goes with this, I am making a separate recording across my regular sound card. The live stream version of this will be privated as soon as we're done, and I'll go ahead and upload the recorded version that'll have all of me cursing the internet company included, free of charge, with no hiccups, no nothing. I don't depend on the live stream after using Spectrum for as long as I did. And then them now coming back and coming into my area after I thought that I was rid of them. Andy Bashir on Wednesday said 11 people in Kentucky have died as a result of Winter Storm Fern, which slammed Kentucky with several inches of snow and ice over the weekend. Several inches. I don't want to make fun of them, people died. But also, I mean, come on. Bashir released the ages and home counties of victims to include a 78-year-old man from Owen County and a 55-year-old man in Livingston County. More details have emerged about the 9 other victims. Marvin Knuckles, a 48-year-old man in Morgan County, was an inmate at Eastern Kentucky Correctional who died after a fall while he was shoveling snow, according to the State Corrections Department. Betty Beach, a 72-year-old woman in Whitley County, died after falling on ice, according to Bashir and Beach's family. Bashir said hypothermia was a factor in Beach's death. Richard Marshall, 55, died over the weekend after being found outside in really grave condition. Lowellville Mayor Craig Greenberg said Wednesday on social media video posts the hospital could not revive him. I wonder, and they're trying to maybe dance around the situation, I wonder if, he's outside in Kentucky in the middle of a winter storm. I wonder if dude was homeless and they just don't want to come back out and say the caveat there. I say that and then they come back and talk about it. Marshall, WDRB in Lowellville, reported didn't have a home. He spent most of his time around a neighborhood tire shop where friends said he was a familiar face and a kind soul who had fallen on hard times. Marshall was found sitting on the ground near the tire shop without shoes as temperatures plunged into the teens with a biting wind chill. He was rushed into the hospital, but friends said it was too late, WDRB said. Friends. So there was nobody that could, put him up for the night. So, yes, 11 lives lost over the storm in Kentucky. American Airlines apologizing to passengers as winter storm strands thousands from S.E. Jenkins. American Airlines Chief Customer Officer has issued an apology to the thousands of passengers across the country impacted by the winter storm. I'm willing to bet that if you wanted to fly anywhere between Missouri and Virginia, in or out, you weren't going anywhere for a while. More than 4,600 U.S. American Airlines flights were canceled on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, according to the FlightAware.com, as a massive storm moved across the country. Over 2,300 American Airlines flights were delayed, according to FlightAware.com. Texas Department of Transportation posted photos over the weekend of snow-covered highways north of Dallas after ice and sleet swept through the region overnight. And again, ice and sleet here, I can't even say that completely because we have been stuck trying to go to Madison to a doctor's appointment with the ice and the snow. Well, not the snow, but the ice, because it got so icy the one morning that at idle, my truck was sliding in four-wheel drive with the traction control on. At idle, we were sliding sideways. I'd never seen that before. That was a new one to me. Took me an hour to go 15 miles. I'm going to guess not well, damned man. Damned man says, I wonder how the electric cars are dealing with the cold. place that I worked recently had an electric Ford Transit that they were all proud of. And they were going to use that to go on one of the cold days to run between, there's 2 dealerships in town that were owned under the same umbrella. So they were going to go from one over to the other one, about 5 miles, full charge on the electric Transit on one of the days. It didn't get as cold as it did this past week here with the negative 33, but they went and ran that thing across town 5 miles on a full charge, and it was flashing the "you need to stop now because our battery's going to die" light in 5 miles. So I'm going to say that they're probably not doing well. I think the Teslas are doing better because Elon made sure that they had technology in there for that. But for everybody else who didn't start off making electric cars, I'm sure that there are some challenges that they're figuring out when they see this kind of stuff. Dallas-Fort Worth Airport canceled most of its scheduled flights and remains packed with travelers waiting to get to their final destination. Dude, after that movie, I would never want my airport to say Final Destination. And I've never even seen that movie, but I know the premise. On Monday, American Airlines Chief Customer Officer Heather Gordon said the last 48 hours have been incredibly challenging and issued an apology to passengers. On behalf of everyone at American, I wanted to assure you that it's been all hands on deck to keep our operation moving, Gordon said in a statement. Our largest hub at Dallas-Fort Worth, which touches a significant number of the flights we operate each day, was hit particularly hard with record-setting conditions. And again, what they're dealing with in Texas, I sympathize for them because they don't do this all the time, so they don't know. But it's just also the other thing that I look at is the fact that, hey, this really isn't that bad. If you guys have a plan in place, you can figure it out pretty quickly. 99,000 customers still without power days after ice storm. Fox 17 presses for answers. This is in Nashville, by the way. And I didn't get a message back, so I do hope that he's okay. But I know a friend of the show, Stephen Ignoramus, is down in that area. Oh, I did get a response back, actually. So, I'll check that right as we're here. Speaking of which. Yeah, I said, hey, I just saw Nashville's in a massive outage. Are you good? And he says, thanks, man. It was really more Sunday and Monday. Lots of people are still out, but I've been fine the whole time. So, the people I care about are fine in this weather. Thank God. I should probably reach out to my cousin, too. Because she lives in that area somewhere. Alright, as of 9 p.m., more than 99,000 Nashville Electric Service customers are still without power on Wednesday after an ice storm rolled through the mid-state over the weekend. The number has decreased significantly from Sunday night, where more than 230,000 customers were without power, but the outage impact has prompted questions if Nashville Electric has staffed appropriately for the storm. Given our staffing levels, our work levels, and the fact that, again, they don't deal with this all the time, I'm going to go right on a limb and say, no, they have not staffed appropriately for the storm. Pretty sure that's going to be a safe assumption. Fox 17 looked into staffing numbers of NES line workers and found Middle Tennessee Electric had nearly 200,000 fewer outages than Nashville, but began Monday with significantly more staff than NES. There's also more people in Nashville than I think there are in the rest of Tennessee combined. So, that's a factor. Wonder if FEMA is going to be of any use.
When are they of any use?
I was trying to find a nicer way to say that. Pomneria, everyone. Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino also spoke with multiple union members and contractors who say NES refused to help from available linemen. Fox 17 asked Vice President of NES Brent Baker on Wednesday why some linemen were turned down to help. That is a little bit weird. But they also have to keep in mind that they have to pay these people, which I think might factor into that. It still doesn't make it right, but I'm sure that that's a factor to it. Baker adds that NES first brings in contractors to regularly work on their systems before calling on those who work for a company not under contract, with NES out of safety. That probably is part of it too, because you could do some major societal terrorism if you had access to a lineman's truck. As of Tuesday, roughly 1,000 customers were without power in each of the following areas. And again, keep in mind that's 1,000 each. Brick Church, North Nashville. Bellevue, West Nashville. Hendersonville, Elysian Fields, Madison. Rosebank, East Nashville. Goodlettsville, Forest Hills, Brentwood. Given that list, I think my cousin is going to be good, but I will reach out to her after this. NES held a board meeting Wednesday where they discussed restoration and addressed concerns on delays, saying that financial restraints are not holding them back from getting power back on. So check on your people in Nashville if you know them. We will go briefly on CBS News because we talked a bit more about this more localized in Kentucky. Dozens confirmed dead as extreme cold continues to grip large part of the U.S. From Emily May Zachor. Dozens of people across multiple states have been confirmed dead after a powerful winter storm struck through large parts of the country, leaving a trail of damage and extreme cold lingering in its wake. As of early Thursday, CBS News has confirmed at least 60 deaths directly caused by the storm conditions or weather-related accidents, with officials in numerous states reporting about 23 additional deaths, but that appear to be related to winter weather. And as we saw in Kentucky, it's not always just somebody was homeless or got stuck out in the cold. A lot of the times it's somebody had a heart attack and the ambulance couldn't get to him. Somebody had a fire and the fire truck couldn't get to him. So I feel for these people. Hypothermia from exposure to the cold, car accidents, snowplow accidents, sledding accidents, and sudden cardiac emergencies linked to shoveling snow were among the causes of death reported so far. Mayor Mamdani said 10 people have been found dead in the cold there, and not all of their causes of death have been confirmed yet. Boy, I could go right down the list on a criticism of communism for that, but Mamdani hasn't been there long enough for that to be a factor, I don't think. The winter storm swept across 2/3 of the U.S. over the weekend into Monday, affecting some 200 million people, with a mixture of heavy snow, rain, sleet, freezing temperatures, according to the National Weather Service. Frigid conditions have persisted through the week, with cold air gripping the eastern half of the country, continuing to drive temperatures far below normal, CBS News meteorologist Nikki Holan said. So, yeah, check on your people. Thorpe says sledding accidents, they're having fun. Right up until they hit the tree. I put a video in the Discord of somebody who was sledding, being pulled behind a four-wheeler, an ATV, and then losing it. It was on the GoPro side too, so you could see it from that dude's point of view, and going nuts first into a tree at a high rate of speed. Next one, the nor'easter coming up on the East Coast. We've got some video with this. Winter Storm Gianna has been named and will be the nor'easter that's set to impact the East Coast this weekend. There's potential for significant snow and gusty winds across the Carolinas and Virginia, and this includes the immediate coastline. Strong winds will also bring the chance for coastal flooding during times of high tide. The track is still uncertain, and the track key is key to where the heaviest snow will fall. Please check back often, and we will look at the video for the latest update on that. I don't know why they didn't have nor'easters in the 2 years that I lived in the East Coast. I kind of wanted to experience one. I guess I kind of did the one Christmas I was out there after I lived there. But I thought it would be fun to sit and watch people who already can't drive try to drive through that kind of shit.
Here's a look at the overall European forecast right now. Again, Friday through Sunday, we've got pretty good snowfall here for Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte. Another weekend where the airport potentially shutting down in Charlotte, Columbia, South Carolina.
3 to 5.
Look at this. There's even some purple around Myrtle Beach. North Myrtle, some of these areas around Pawleys Island. You guys could be looking at shovelable snow. And then up in the mountains, it's also saying, hey, we're going to get some good snow there. Plus, it's the mountains. Mountains always get good snow when we get a storm system like this. GFS is putting a lot more heavy snow for the eastern side of North Carolina. Again, GFS is one that's going to hug this storm system a little bit farther to the west. But again, you take a look at the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. Most of that precipitation is just offshore. So exposed areas could get hit with some, pretty good snowfall in some of these areas around the south side of Jersey Shore. Cape May still kind of in a targeted area. We're watching you guys specifically in South Jersey. Again, GFS model is putting a little bit more on land, because it wants it to go a little bit farther to the west. So again, timing is still a question mark here. Model outlook right now with the European, which we tend to lean towards, has this low really forming on Saturday. Snow beginning to really pump out here for Southern Virginia, North Carolina. That low is deepening. Steph, the wind is going to be picking up. Snow is going to be blowing sideways. And even if you don't get the snow, we're likely going to get travel delays just from the wind.
The European is a lot more gun-ho on a bigger event for, let's say, the South Shore of Boston all the way down through the Cape and the Islands, okay? You, too, like the OBX or Virginia Beach, would have blizzard warnings here if we verify, all right? GFS, not as bullish, all right? So there's still some wiggle room here as to exactly what...
I find it a little bit funny that when they shifted the second video and showed South Shore of Boston, they're not showing inches, they're just showing heavy, very heavy, whereas... And I don't mean to scoff it again, because I know the North Carolinians don't deal with this stuff all the time, but it's just... I see the video and they say, super heavy, debilitating snow, 3 to 5 inches, and... My little Wisconsin heart just wants to come back and to borrow a phrase from the people in the South and say, oh, bless your heart. 3 to 5 inches. But there again, I'm used to that, and I know that people over there aren't going to be able to do anything with it. Because they don't know. Because they haven't had 41 years of practice at it. Alright, WXII. Cold continues, tracking weekend winter storm. Elaine Pops reporting with video on this one.
Getting my dog out last night, and she's about 45 pounds or so and pulls so hard. And down a hill, I had to give up and sit down and let her pull me down the hill and then get back up. Otherwise, I would have bit it.
That's like a little dog sled for you.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Yeah, folks, it is so icy out there. And remember, we had a lot of sleet, and now it's really just packed down across the area. And now we may add snow on top of that. You're taking a look at downtown Mount Airy, where there is still snow in and around on sidewalks. So keep that in mind. You just had some good information shared with you. Let's talk about where we're headed as we go through the next few days. We're going to have a few hours above freezing again on Thursday, so a little bit of melt is possible. It's just going to refreeze, though, with temperatures down into the teens Friday morning. And then by late Friday, we could see some snow showers entering into the area. And we are tracking potential for another winter storm across the region into the week.
Down to the teens, oh my God. All right, so there's your weather. There again, go check on the people that are close to you, the people that you care about that are in these areas. And I know a few of you who are going to watch this, either live or on the replay, are in these areas as well. So if you have the capability, you're in the Discord, go ahead and let us know that you're safe, that you got out there, and yeah. All right. Next piece of news that we have here. Hey, look, we're going to shut the government down again. From NPC News, senators explore off-ramps to prevent a shutdown as Democrats lay out DHS reforms. From Sahil Kapoor and Scott Wong. I'm not going to make the bad joke about that guy's last name this time. I do it all the time. He's not Wong. Senators met privately on Wednesday to discuss off-ramps to prevent a government shutdown this weekend, with both parties recognizing that a funding bill for the DHS cannot pass in its current form. A recent funding deal that passed the House last week has been upended by the DHS killing of Alex Pretty in Minnesota over the weekend, and the subsequent policy outcry, which prompted Democrats and a top Republican to say the department should not be funded without policy changes. The deadline is Friday at 11 p.m. or 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, leaving little time to hash out a solution that can achieve the 60 votes needed in the Senate. Spoiler alert, we're going into a shutdown. The fact that we're talking about this, I grabbed this article on Wednesday night, and your deadline is Friday at midnight, we're shutting down. So prepare for that onslaught of news. And I am positive that we're still going to be talking about this come next Thursday. One idea that's gained traction, a short-term funding bill for DHS, while the two parties negotiate changes to the department, along with the 5 remaining appropriations bills to fund the rest of the government through September 30th. Yeah, the problem is we do short-term funding bill, and then we just don't go back and negotiate it back out. I mean, we were supposed to be doing this 2 months ago. The item, it's an item that's been discussed on both sides, says Senator Mike Rounds, Republican, South Dakota. But he added that this will only proceed if the president is on board first. The White House has not commented on the idea. That would be an interesting twist, by the way. Yes, NPC News. We're open. We recognize that if we do nothing, then we have a government shutdown, which nobody wants, added Rounds, who has been speaking with Democrats about possible off-ramps. If we get 5 of the 6 bills across the... Why are we getting ads in the middle of the stream? Do we have to go back and change the way we do YouTube? Because I will gladly go back and put the music channel on Brave, because that's got an internal ad blocker that works with YouTube. Part of the reason I moved over to that. Alright, we recognize if we do nothing, then we have a government shutdown, which nobody wants, adds Rounds. I wouldn't say nobody wants the government to shut down. Hi, right here. Who has been speaking with Democrats about possible off-ramps. If we get 5 of the 6 bills across the finish line with House cooperation, that's funding really close to in excess of 90% of the government, which basically only Homeland left. Boy, I'd love to be in the mind of a mega person who hears Mike Rounds say that we can fund everything except for Homeland Security, because those people have a pretty big hard-on for Homeland Security right now. Multiple Republican senators said they'd be supportive of that approach, but only if the White House supports it. We have to have an open mind on options, and obviously one that we're talking about is the 5 bills goal. And we do some work on DHS, said Josh Haven of North Dakota, but obviously the White House has it to decide and tell us what they want. Senate Majority Leader John Thune kept the door open Wednesday when asked about the idea of 5 bills in a short-term funding bill for DHS, also called a continuing resolution or CR. but he indicated that the onus would be on Democrats to cut a deal with the White House. Well, that's one way to put that. These are all hypotheticals at this point, and I would reserve optionality to consider that, Thune said after a Senate GOP lunch meeting in response to a question from NPC News. But I think that the best path forward, as I said, is to keep the package intact. And there are things that the Democrats want the administration can agree with them about, then let's do that. I mean, if you look at the average age of a senator in this country, I'm sure that not a lot of their packages are intact right now. Yeah, I went there. So, I've got this feeling this time next week, we're going to be talking about the government shutdown. Just based on what I read from NPC News. Politico saying the same thing. CNN adding a little bit of flavor text to this one here. Democrats demand major overhaul to ICE as government shutdown risk skyrockets. From Lauren Fox, Sarah Ferris, and Elaine Treen. Democrats in Congress are digging in against any funding deal with Trump this week. It doesn't include major changes to federal immigration enforcement. Translation: we're going to hold the government funding hostage until you stop enforcing immigration law. Dramatically increasing the odds of a shutdown at week's end inside the Capitol. Democrats firmly lined up behind Senate Minority Leader Chuck U. Schumer as he unveiled the party's official demands on Wednesday to rein in Trump's Department of Homeland Security. Behind the scenes, several of Schumer's Democrats rebuffed efforts by the White House to privately discuss off-ramps for a shutdown, insisting that Republicans must come to the table instead of trying to peel off centrist Democrats, like the last shutdown. Chuck, that didn't work in your favor last time. You can actually make this one work in your favor, but it sounds like you're going to do this in the stupidest way possible. Given what I've been following with your political career for the last 10 years, that actually wouldn't surprise me either. Chuck Schumer likes to do things in the dumbest way possible. I don't know why New York keeps putting him into that office. Even confronted with the prospect of a shutdown, 3/4 of the government starting on Saturday, many Democrats were unwavering, buoyed by a belief that the country's patience for the Trump admin's aggressive immigration enforcement tactics have run out. I'm just so sick of them ignoring it all because Trump might give them a spanking, said Jackie Rosen, a Democrat from Nevada. I just got a really disturbing mental image in my head. Their list includes requirements U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials wear body cameras and remove their masks, and roving patrols tighten parameters around warrants for searches and arrests, and enforce a code of conduct comparable to force policies for state and local law enforcement. I'm not 100% opposed to the body camera thing. Masks, I'm a little bit wishy-washy on. I don't want law enforcement to be masked, obviously, but also knowing the fact that given the political climate and fog of war that we have here at this point, the part of the reason that they're wearing masks is the fact that people have been told that the activity of enforcing immigration is supposed to be a bad thing that they don't want, in spite of the last 4 administrations, but we won't go down that road. They've been told that any immigration enforcement is the Gestapo, so if you can see the faces of the people who are enforcing it, then the people who think that they're fighting the SS are going to go after their families. That's the reason for it, and I don't like the reason for it. I don't. I hate it. I wish we could be in a society where we didn't have to have that conversation. And I'm going to be the first one to say I don't know what's right about that. No, I don't think law enforcement should be masked, but I understand the reason why they're masked. Now the Democratic Party faces a critical inflection point with 2 days to go until yet another federal funding lapse. Schumer and his caucus must balance what is realistic in a negotiation where Republicans hold every lever of power, as demonstrated by the fact that the Democrats can shut the government down at whim. That is absolutely every lever of power. That was propaganda right there. While finding a way to satisfy a Democratic base that is incensed by the killing of Alex Pretty, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, in an encounter with federal agents in Minnesota on Saturday. Democrats are basically asking for basically only two things: stop the violence and have real accountability for those who break the law. This isn't a moment where Democrats are asking to rewrite all the immigration law for criminal law generally. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts said, "Everyone is at risk of what is mobilized people everywhere." Thank you, Senator Warren, but no, that's actually exactly what the people are asking for. All right, and now we move on to Atlanta. The stuff that I edited basically while we were already on the air. Let's get the live chat back up here. All right. Let's have a look here. Decca says Firefox blocks YouTube ads really well with an extension. Brave does it without an extension. I've got a backlog of tabs on Chrome still that I want to go through and use before I make the full switch out to Brave. And some of them are like the music that you hear behind me. That's one of the things, and then some songs here. And yeah, all my monitors are sitting on the YouTube, or I'm sorry, on the Chrome side. So, yeah. But the fact that I've had 2 ads since we were live tells me it might be time to go and do something about that. Thorpe says it's just theater. There's like 20 million illegals. Thorpe says drain the swamp, lock her up, border Epstein. It's an endless how little follow through there is. Yes. Thorpe says it's because he voted against the Epstein release. And yes, accurately, Obama has deported way more than Trump has. That is 100% accurate. 100%. Alright. From Reuters. FBI searches Atlanta election office chasing Trump 2020 vote fraud claims. From Jana Winter and Andrew Goodsword. The FBI searched an election office in Georgia's Fulton County outside Atlanta on Wednesday, pursuing U.S. President Trump's false claims, and of course they have to go back and put this, false claims that his 2020 election defeat was the result of widespread voting fraud. The FBI sent a brief statement that the agents executed a warrant at Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center in Union City, a large warehouse-like facility opened by Georgia officials in 2023, and called it a court-authorized law enforcement activity. The search concluded on Wednesday, a law enforcement official said. The warrant sought a number of records related to the 2020 elections, the Fulton County government said in a brief statement about the search. The latest in a string of actions by Trump admin to use the DOJ against his perceived enemies or to intervene in cases where he believes he was treated unfairly. Okay, here's my question. What exactly is it at this point? It is 2026. Do you think you're going to find? I've been vocal about this for a long time. I don't think the 2020 election happened the way that we've been told that it happened. I'm sympathetic to the thought and the idea that something was amiss in 2020. I'm sympathetic to that idea. I would like to explore that idea a little bit more. I get it. I get where you're coming from. But we're going to come back up against the time, and I think we're already well past that time, where we've had 6 years to go back, and if there was some sort of evidence that says there's some sort of smoking gun that says, yes, we Democrats, I don't have enough mustache to twirl, we Democrats 100% stole the election because you don't get a choice. You chose the wrong person. Ha 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 ha. Don't you think in the year 2026 that would be long fucking gone by now? And I said the same thing. Even going into the 2024 election. While we were in campaign season, I said, we can sit here and we can sit out and try to rehash 2020 all year long, and if you do that, you're going to lose. And the Donald actually listened a little bit to that and said, hey, no, we're going to go forward. We're not going to talk about 2020 anymore. Except saying that it is the worst election in history. Gave us sleepy Joe Biden. But we're going to look forward now. We're going to talk about all the things that we can do to make America great again. And he, to his credit, he did that. To some extent. But now, again, we're going to sit back and try to rehash this. Do it coming right into a midterm election on top of it. Whereas, what we should be doing is sitting here saying, alright, look at all the great things I've done. I am the greatest president there is. There's something we're going to talk about on things I like about that, actually. The great accomplishments of the Republican Party over the last 2 years. Look at how great it is. We have affordability. Our economy is great. Because I am your president, Donald Trump. Instead of coming back and trying to rehash out. I digress. And again, I don't even know what it is that I think they're going to find 6 years later. I can't believe that election officials in Georgia would have kept records to show posterity that they cheated the election. That seems like that would be a stupid thing to do. Oh, we must have fully disconnected at some point. Yeah, we need to go back and have a conversation with Spectrum again. Because all my stuff is working properly. And yet we come into this point on contemporary time. At 7 a.m. on a Thursday, where the internet starts crashing. Actually, I've been noticing little crashes going on throughout the day as well, so. Hey, I think Wes Bennington joined us here. So I'm going to grab one local for this, and then we get to talk about the fog of war. Because that's what I really want to talk about today. I have a bunch of articles up here, and I don't even know if I want to sit and read any of them. That's kind of where we're at right now with all this. Alright, lastly, before we get in and talk about Minneapolis, from Fox 5 Atlanta, locally. FBI agents spent hours searching Fulton County election facility, from Joyce Lupiani. Again, it's been 6 years. I don't know what it is you expect to find. Oh, Klobuchar is running for Minnesota governor. Let's bookmark that. I don't know if I'm going to put this on things I like, things I hate, but I'm going to go put this on to talk about. We'll put that on the end of the show, which I'll also be reminded that I didn't put the rules of acquisition up. Because we got to read the rules of acquisition. Alright, we'll check back on that. Federal agents carried out law enforcement action, later confirmed as a sealed search warrant on Wednesday at the Central Fulton County Election Facility. What we know, multiple law enforcement vehicles and agents were seen at the county's election hub and operations center, a site that opened in 23 to centralize and modernize election operations. A photojournalist with Fox 5 Atlanta observed agents outside the building as activity unfolded shortly after. FBI Atlanta confirmed agents were executing a court-authorized action on the facility's address in Campbellton, Fairburn Road. A spokesperson then told Fox 5 Atlanta that the FBI was there to conduct an active sealed search warrant. Damn Man says, look at all the good things they've done, and not because he played Capture the... I can't read that on mainline tech. Oh wait, he said flag. He said flag. You guys. Got it wrong. A source told Fox 5 Atlanta the FBI was there to take custody of Fulton County election ballots from 2020. Authorities did not say what prompted the operation or what records or materials, if any, were being sought. The FBI said it could not release additional details yet because the matter remains ongoing. The Department of Justice also declined to comment. So, again, what do you expect to find 6 years later? Alright, we have got a lot of articles here. We've got a lot of stuff going on here. When we go to talk about Minneapolis, I don't necessarily want to read a lot of it because it's so propagandized. Some of the I am gonna touch on the Ilhan Omar stuff directly, but I don't know. We'll use articles as I see fit going on with this. So over the last 2 weeks, and I follow a lot of more left-leaning accounts on Instagram, so I see a lot more stories of that. People who were not political when I started following them. A lot of artists, actually. Oddly enough. Cosplayers, because that's something I've always been interested in. Candle makers, stuff like that. A lot of tech sites. Since I've been in a committed relationship, I can honestly say, and I don't think it happened accidentally. I kind of changed the standard of who I follow on Instagram, but it's becoming a lot less horrors and a lot more interesting, cool stuff. I follow like 7 different transmission builders on Instagram at this point. Machine shops, stuff like that. But regardless, I mean, there's still a lot of artists. There's still a lot of people who do artsy things that I sit back and watch. So I've been seeing a lot of the very, very left-wing, progressive source material on this kind of stuff and what it is that they have to say about this. I can promise you that what is happening in Minneapolis, without even setting foot there, is not what is being presented by the mainstream news. That's why I titled this episode, The Fog of War. That is the exact reason that's the title that you're seeing here, The Fog of War. The thing with Renee Good, we're never going to have an answer for that. We've got a grainy cell phone video of one angle. We've got a grainy video of a second angle, and we've got a weird video of actually what would probably have been a very good angle, but that mysteriously stops right before the shooting. The thing with Alex Pretty, this poor ICU nurse that would never hurt anybody. Then we find out that he's been in a confrontation with ICE once before. nothing is as it seems right now. I lost the post. I wanted to go put it on the stack for today, and I went back and I can't find it again. But I found a post that was a right-wing news site, or several right-wing news sites, quote, debunking all the stories that we hear about. We heard the debunking of the 5-year-old that was taken into ICE custody and how that was debunked. We heard the story of Alex Pretty and how that was debunked. The Renee Goodwin, obviously, where that was debunked. But the problem with that is, I mean, you can sit back here and you can weigh the elements of the story against what's on NBC News and on CNN and what's on your local channels and everything else. But the problem with that, when we look at it, is it is a partisan outlet that is still trying to craft a narrative about what's happening in Minneapolis. And because it's so partisan, then we still have to come back and question what the motives are, what it is they're trying to do, and how much of it is real and how much of it is embellished to try to get you to feel a certain way, to try to get right-wingers to feel a certain way about the mainstream media. Oh, look, on Kick, we get promotions. Abandon Apathy UXCJ. Let's promote you. Come on in. nezhna.com. That sounds like a legitimate website, by the way. nezhna.com. I bet you we will get promoted. We'll get thousands of followers if we do that. The reality is we're doing botting behavior. We don't kick anybody out here. You can say whatever stupid thing you want to say in the chat. Always had that policy. But if you do some things that are against the rule, you got to go back and think about it for a few minutes. You go into timeout. You get 5 minutes. If you change your ways, you can come back. I don't ban unless you're really, 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 really causing a problem. Thorpe says ICE is not serious enough. The few who are still MAGA are even turning on Trump now because of what he said about guns to a yesterday. Yeah, that's the other problem with this, and a problem that I've had with Trump since the beginning, because he's a New York-style Democrat, and he has said things about the Second Amendment that I'm not thrilled about. I still long hold to the position that I've held since the very, very beginning of the Trump admin. Well, no, I was excited the first time. I said, hey, here's somebody from outside of government. And I think that he could make a meaningful change if he tries. He's not from the government. He doesn't have the huge government ties that everybody else does. We could maybe see something different out of this one, but by 2018, I was pretty black-pilled on it. When I heard, okay, I'm going to sign this omnibus. And then I'm never going to sign another one again. We're only going to have balanced budgets at this point. No more omnibus funding. Boy, that voice is hard to do long term. Especially when you're on and off with a cold, and people around you have had a cold recently. No more omnibus spending. We're going to have a balanced budget. Because that was what I wanted out of the Trump admin initially, was to balance the stupid budget. I thought, hey, businessman from New York has the potential to do this. Rich enough that he doesn't have to worry about special interests trying to throw pork into these bills. And then, hey, we got 3 more omnibuses that term. And we've had another one yet this term. I think we've had 2 this term already. No balanced budget, none of this stuff. So, yeah, the first time I was excited about Trump, and then his stance on the Second Amendment and government spending became clear, and I was no longer that thrilled. Voted against Joe Biden in 2020 and was going to sit out 2024 until they put Harris up, and I saw what her record looked like. Well, I already knew what her record looked like as a prosecutor because I've been analyzing this shit since 2012. But knowing that she has no qualms about putting people who make her life inconvenient into prison, and knowing the fact that my first stance is not Republican, it's anti-government, which means that I would make life incredibly inconvenient for a Harris administration. So I voted against her as well. Damn Man says, time to test that rule. The gun was responsible. Oh, wait, it was a SIG, so maybe it was. But I had this article up here. How daily life in Minneapolis has transformed since federal agents flooded the streets. From Matt Lavietes and Alicia Victoria Lozano. These days, it's hard to do anything here without coming across the city's grief over the killing of 2 Americans by immigration agents, residents say. Anti-signs are plastered on streetlights and hang over walking bridges. Know your rights flyers sit next to cream and sugar at local coffee shops. A lot of this is performative, though, by the way. When I go to the grocery store now, it's like, this all feels so weird to be doing normal things when we feel like we're under attack. And Carrie said as she handed out donuts Sunday to people around the site of Alex Pretty's killing. In the weeks since 3,000 federal agents flooded the streets here, many say nothing about daily life feels the same. That's not even 1% of the Minneapolis population, by the way. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people until you scale how big Minneapolis is. Let me double check my numbers before I realize I'm talking out my ass. Yeah, 428,000 to 430,000 people live in Minneapolis. So 3,000 agents, it sounds like a big number, but it's really not. Minneapolis is give or take the same size as Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee might be bigger at this point. When I was living in Kenosha and actually driving up to Milwaukee, I saw the population sign because, and again, I thought that it was going to be way, way bigger than it actually was. Oh, Spectrum, we got to get this shit fixed. Because we can't keep doing this every time I try to stream. So, we got to figure something else out. Volunteering has exploded. Many here now respond to immigration and customs enforcement sightings within the neighborhoods to record or prevent apprehensions. Others form human chains surrounding city schools, carrying walkie-talkies and whistles. Some spend the nights delivering groceries to undocumented families who are afraid to leave their homes. Stephen Young, 41, quit his job as a corporate attorney last month. A day after, he said he and other volunteers surrounded an apartment building and blocked federal agents from leaving with detained tenants. Trying to go back to a phony baloney corporate job of filing trademarks and talking about profit shares versus incentives and other just horseshit is just so ultimately meaningless, Young said. I'll figure something else out, but right now, my city needs me. Now he spends his days monitoring Signal group chats for ICE sightings in his neighborhood in central Minneapolis. If he's alerted to one in real time, he'll drive there with a goal of deterring or recording apprehensions. Which, and again, you should be recording apprehensions. You should be. One of the greatest things to come out of the smartphone era is the fact that we have angles of everything going on right now. But again, we look at many of these stories, and yes, they're being framed in. I can take this all the way back to George Floyd and Jacob Blake. The Jacob Blake one especially, because I was a long-time Kenosha resident. Kenosha was my home for many, many years, and I know the place so well, but when we look at the video, the George Floyd video, we see multiple autopsies. We look at multiple ideas of what's going on with this, and several things pointing to, hey, this guy died of a drug overdose, with people interested in shaping a narrative paying out of pocket big money to have another autopsy come up and show that, hey, there's this bruising on the neck and he killed this person. Where do you think these people are going to land when they know where the money is coming from? Of course they're going to do everything they can to try to show that this was a Chauvin thing. But all that we have for the most part is one grainy cell phone video from an unflattering angle. Meanwhile, the whole place is surrounded, and if I remember correctly, I thought other people had their phones out, but why don't we get the angles from those phones? Why is it just the one that shows the most incriminating angle? Same thing with Jacob Blake. Now, yeah, I understand the fact that at the time Kenosha didn't have body cams, and they've corrected that at this point, but the only thing that you see is one long-distance shot from a bedroom window where the door of the vehicle was blocked. And now a narrative is crafted of, oh, well, completely unarmed, they wrestled him to the ground and killed him in cold blood, even though he didn't die. Turns out, and by his own admission, he had a knife and he was getting ready to go back and slash at people. It was a weaponized knife. That evidence came out and it didn't stop the riots. That evidence came out and Jacob Blake himself said, no, I did this, and that didn't stop any of the riots. Because we're in fog of war and people believe what they want to believe. That's the reason, again, where I looked at this Instagram post that debunked the 5-year-old narrative, the Alex Pretty narrative, the Renee Good narrative over and over again. And I sat and I said, how much of this can I actually believe? Because this is a partisan Instagram page that's trying to spread a narrative. How much of this is actually real and how much of this is bullshit? And people like this who are going out, quitting big jobs, good jobs, for the cause because they think that they're standing up against the federal government. And yes, as Thorpe said, the idea and thoughts about what the Second Amendment actually means. Coming from the president himself, by the way. There's so many problems with this, and really, unless you're on the ground, you don't know what's going on. You're being fed a steady stream of bad camera angles and outrage-generating ideas saying, hey, don't you think you're supposed to feel bad about this? Don't you think you're supposed to feel wrong about this? Why don't you feel wrong about this, you dumb shit? And if you don't react the way that they want you to, oh, well, all of MAGA is just an occult, so all the left wing is just an occult. This speech, this spiel that I've just given here, is the exact reason I couldn't sit back and do this last week. The exact reason I had to sit back and think about, do I really want to continue? Because there's no good information. Alright. Thorpe says, deportation is not even cruel. There are much worse things that could happen to them. Wes Fanning's here. I think I'll watch the earlier part later and watch live now. That'll be cool. And that'll give me time to get the actual upload because we're having Spectrum fun again today, Quest Fanning. But thank you. All right. What do I want to read from this news stack? Now that I've ranted and screamed and yelled. Hey, look. There's that junior. No baby faces on camera, but apparently we're going to show baby feet and baby butt. Hi, boo-boo.
It's still cute.
It is.
Especially
She's smiling.
Well, yeah, 'cause she says, I'm famous.
What do I want to read from this? I've got a couple that I want to go. And then actually I'm going to have to start winding this down.
You want to ignore it all because it's all depressing.
Let's see. Alex Pretty. Video shows physical clash between Pretty and federal agents 11 days before he died. Let's watch that.
What you're seeing is a new video that has emerged of a physical clash between Alex Preddy and federal agents over a week before he was fatally shot by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents. Now, let me walk you through what happens here. You see Preddy is seen shouting at agents and kicking the vehicle taillight as agents are driving away. They then stop and exit the vehicle and tackle him to the ground, this whole interaction lasting about a few seconds. Now, there does appear to be a gun that is tucked in his waistband, but it's unclear if the agents noticed it. They do not disarm him, and they instead walk away. It's also unclear what happened before this video and after, but I have been told by the Department of Homeland Security that they are reviewing this video. The department, of course, part of the investigation into this past Saturday's deadly shooting. Now, additional context of the video here, it was filmed less than 2 miles from the scene of Preddy's deadly encounter, and he is seen wearing similar attire to what he wore when he was fatally shot. Now, CNN previously reported that Preddy had an encounter with federal agents prior to Saturday's deadly shooting and that he suffered a broken rib. It's unclear, however, if this video captured that incident. What we can tell you is that we are reviewing additional video of the encounter. A representative of Preddy's family confirmed to CNN that the man in the video posted on Wednesday is Preddy.
So, I mean, that changes some of the narrative because, you know, you come out here and they try to tell you that, oh, well, he was just there and trying to render aid to people and he just showed up that day. And no, it turns out that he was being a bit of a dick before. So, again, it doesn't matter. And I don't know why agents chose to shoot him. It looked like he was fully out detained. But again, the only people who know what happened there are Alex Pretty before he drew his last breath and the agents involved. Everything else is going to be a speculation, mostly based on partisan view. We're so deep in the fog of war at this point, it's next to impossible to know what's going on. And apparently, allegedly, Durham, Virginia nurses gathered for vigil. So sounds like he came all the way up from North Carolina, or I'm sorry, Virginia rather, to go back and be a part of this one. So, I mean, he's welcome to do so. I'm not going to say he's not because it's something he believes in, but I know that was a big part of the argument that the left came out with when they talked about Rittenhouse, is he didn't even have any reason to be there. He crossed state lines. Hey, Alex Pretty crossed a lot more state lines to get here to be in this. And it kind of looks like he went up there to cause trouble. I am not defending the actions of ICE on this one because I don't have enough information on what actually happened on the ground. And certainly, my thought is, unless he's brandishing, there's no reason that he had to die. Unless, again, of course, there was some other thing that was happening at the time that we don't know about. Haley says, yesterday while driving, we were followed by multiple vehicles for over an hour. We were told that we came up in the local ICE Watch Group's ICE database. You can hear us confirm multiple times that we are not ICE. At one point, they asked for our IDs to see who we were. Insane network that they're running here. I've never seen anything like it. So they're not even just staying with ICE people.
We are not ICE. We're not ICE. We're not ICE.
I'm showing my face. I'm not.
We question you. We're not ICE. Yeah, they've been following us for over an hour. We're not ICE. We're just letting them know, and they.
Not in a nice vehicle, right?
No. Right.
Right. Get in your truck and get the fuck out. Why? Because you need to go. Confirmed ICE. Get the fuck out.
Confirmed ICE through who? We're American citizens. We're not ICE.
These are the people that you're abducting. Get out. Please go.
Because they've been following us for over an hour.
Why are you guys here? What are you here doing? Why are you guys here? Where do you live? Yeah, where are you from? The protest is public property. What are you talking about? Did you come in that car right there?
Yeah, this truck. And they're saying we're popping up in an ICE database.
Well, then you're in it. We're not ICE.
What's the database?
Get the fuck out of here, though. Do we look like ICE? No. No ICE. Nothing on me. Prove it. We're not ICE. I don't have no weapons. Let me see your IDs of where you live.
No, they've been following us. That's why we got out and confronted them.
Great.
You think that's okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I'm curious
you
about
our neighborhood. Yes, 100%. Yes.
I'm curious, I guess, how you get into an ICE database.
I would say it's probably by eating a lot of ice. Yeah. Quest says these people are the Gestapo. Just a little bit here. Thorpe says him having a gun or not is irrelevant since it was legally concealed carry, but he's stupid for bringing one anyway. Maybe next time. Quest says, you know, the beverage Colt 45 is not a reference to the gun, but number 45 for the Colts back in the day. Jerry Hill. I actually did know that one. Damn man says, I think the issue was someone shouting gun and possibly a misfire. And he did have a SIG, so they do misfire. Thorpe says, no one is in the right in that situation. ICE are sloppy dumb fucks who barely make a dent in deportations. Protesters do absolutely nothing beside impede society and law enforcement. Last one I want to do before we head out for the day. The National Guard is in there handing out coffee. I'm going to monitor that situation. We might be talking about that more next week, but just this video from the Ilhan Omar speech. Brianna Morello says the FBI needs to launch an investigation into this incident and have Ilhan Omar file a report. This incident is fake. Omar's lies to the FBI would be criminal. I'm sorry, if this is fake, the lies to the FBI would be criminal. So, in the midst of a speech, a concerned citizen gave up, sprayed an unknown liquid on Ilhan Omar, and was tackled by her security as she went forward and then just got back up onto the podium like nothing happened. Guys, there is so much that stinks about this story, and I mean, when I first saw it, that was the first thing I said is, no, this is fake. This is 100% fake. I can look at this and say, unknown liquid in the age of bioterrorism didn't stop, didn't go get checked out, and now comes back out and says, oh, I didn't stop and get checked out because I'm this badass. I'm a complete badass. No. As polarized as we are, if somebody comes up and sprays a liquid on you, if I'm your security chief, unless I know what's going on and I'm in on it, then no, you're going and getting checked out medically. Make sure that you didn't get anthrax or something like that. I don't buy a second of this one. People are saying that she looked at him right as it was time for him to come up here and do this too. No, I don't buy anything on this one. This one stinks to high heavens. Quest Fanning bringing up a good counterpoint to that, but quite like when Teddy Roosevelt took a bullet and finished his speech. That won't stop a bull moose. Yes, Quest says, he was in range to stab her if he wanted to, clearly staged. Thorpe says she even looked at him right after she set the line. She wanted to go viral with this one. And I mean, we get the same thing. Something that right-wingers aren't supposed to like. And suddenly there's a bomb threat everywhere. And everybody's so mad and this and that and the next thing. It's always a bomb threat, too. Or somebody can mysteriously get past all the security, get right up in front of a Somali U.S. representative in the time where Somalians are big in the news. I don't buy this one for a second. Alright, we gotta head out of here because I got some other stuff I gotta do out today. But before we do, a couple things I like, a couple things that I hate, and we'll look at the Amy Klobuchar thing. That might wind up on the stack for tomorrow more completely too. That's breaking, I guess, today. But first we look at the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition. Those of you who are unfamiliar with Star Trek lore, the Rules of Acquisition take the place of commandments in the Ferengi religion of hypercapitalism. If you follow these rules, once you finish life, you've earned enough social credit that you can bid on your next life with it. Every week, we look at one of these rules. We talk about how it is used in lore, if possible, how it can be used in real life, if it is not a abject criticism of capitalism, which a lot of them are. And if I know, because I haven't read a lot of the books, but I've seen a lot of the show multiple times, we talk about how it's used in show. Alright, we went a couple weeks. So we're at the 162nd rule of acquisition right now. Even in the worst of times, someone turns a profit. I like to think that that's maybe even we can make that political a little bit. But yes, even in the worst of times, there's somebody who has a product, a skill that people need and can come back and turn a profit out of it. I'm reminded of the end of the Obama presidency, which, I mean, yes, Obama did extend the Great Recession, possibly made it worse. Statisticians will be fighting over that for the next 10 decades. Talking about how Obama's presidency fit into the Financial Times. And yes, it's still going to be partisan. That goes along with that. But even at the worst of times, there were people out there making a new product, starting a new thing, and could turn a profit. So even in the worst of times, people need stuff. People have the skills to go back and make stuff. My cousin's wife, now wife, girlfriend at the time, who was staunchly liberal at the time, even came out and said, oh, well, Obama turned the economy around and it's so great now. Well, it had no place to go but up at that point. Trust me, as low as it was at the point, he should have had multiple quarters of 5-6% growth. And he didn't. He barely chugged along at 3% the entire time that he was there. But regardless, even in the worst of times, someone turns a profit. I think we're a little bit over halfway at this point. And this is our second run, because we did this before. Alright, let's check on Amy Klobuchar from Fox 5 Atlanta. Amy Klobuchar is running for Minnesota governor. Because remember, Tim Walz has stepped down. U.S. Senator Klobuchar has made it official and is running for governor of Minnesota after Walz dropped out of the race earlier this month. Last week, Klobuchar took the first steps towards running for governor by filing preliminary paperwork, and on Thursday morning made official announcement with more than 4-minute video posted to social media. Minnesota Democrats, I'm just going to say one thing to this. I would never, ever, ever, ever want a senator to go run for governor. I would primary that senator out, and I don't care which party it is. Because under most state rules, that person gets to go back and choose his or her own successor, which in and of itself seems like a corrupted cycle. In the video, she mentions the killings of Melissa Hortman and her husband, as well as the ice surge. That's a 4-minute video. I gotta head out of here. We are going to bookmark this and come back to that one. Alright, let's do a couple things that I hate. Florida nurse loses license after wishing harm on Carolyn Levitt during childbirth. We didn't even get to the story of the other ICU nurse who told people to go back and inject ICE agents with poison. I think it's a neuroparalytic poison. And then kill them after they're writhing on the ground. Yeah, she lost her license too, but the fact that we're into this position, that we're this far along, that people are losing licensure and whatnot after wishing harm on government officials. The whole thing is just, it's way too hot right now, and part of it is the fog of war. People only believing what's partisan and what they want to believe. Florida Surgeon General Joseph Lopatto has revoked the license of a nurse who wished childbirth injuries on Press Secretary Bubble-Headed Bleach Blonde. State AG James Uthmeyer announced the move to strip Lexi Lawler of Florida state nursing license on a post on X on Wednesday, praising Lopatto for taking such a decisive action and ensuring those who wish harm on others, particularly those who work in fields like healthcare, where the idea is first do no harm, face consequences for doing so. Effective today, Lexi Lawler is no longer allowed to practice nursing in Florida, making the statement that wish pain and suffering on anyone when those statements are directly related to one's practice is an ethical red flag, and it's an ethical red line we should not cross, Uthmeyer said. You know what the worst part of this is? This lady can go and move to California right now and get a nursing license there. In fact, she'll probably be lauded and awarded when she does. And naive switchboards got hit with a bot. Viewers, random link with a Russian extension. How embarrassing, stopped posting links from the Nightbot. And a timeout for you. After learning one day earlier that Lawler had been fired for her statements directed at Levitt, Uthmeyer had argued simply the loss of her job was not adequate, being fired isn't good enough. Any healthcare worker who fails to uphold his or her obligation to provide adequate, safe healthcare should not be licensed in Florida. No excuses. It was.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Speaking of a classic, after running on affordability, Virginia Dems push for the nation's highest income tax. 13.8% top rate, surpassing California. Virginia Democrats have introduced legislation that would significantly raise income and investment taxes, putting the Commonwealth on track to become the highest tax state in the nation. These proposals, which include new TOPS tax brackets and higher levies on investment income, would push Virginia's effective income tax rate above California's. After getting all three branches of government under Democrat control. Can I get it again? Can I do it again?
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Tim Mull is still trying to think that he's the tough guy. Tim Walz on JD Vance. I would beat the shit out of him if I could.
I would beat the shit out of him now if I could, and I would call that out. I mean, that's just different. In verbally going at it, my argument is much better. In making the case that housing prices are up because of immigration and that we should build on federal lands, it was such a crazy thing. But then when I watched him, I got sucked into that. And if you remember, this was right in that moment of eating dogs and cats. I took that bait and thought that that was the argument of how outrageous it was. That was not the argument.
And he said that your cops are liars. He said that the
ICE
ICE agents aren't.
They all did. That's exactly right. That this is the problem with them. And well, the president said it, that we told them to stand down. Do you think they would do that? Do you think that police would not protect citizens, no matter if I'm like, oh, don't do this? But yes. Well, this is the whole paradox with these guys. I would beat the shit out of him now if I could, and I would call that out. I mean, that's just...
I just want to remind Governor Walz that if you really, 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 really want to fight somebody in politics that bad, you've still got an open invitation from this guy right here. Reminder for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is Glenn Jacobs, who is known professionally as Kane, who has an open invitation for a, not scrimmage, not the word I'm looking for. What's the word for a fight that's not for any points or anything else? Why can't I think of the word? Exposition? An exposition match, I think is the word I'm looking for. Kane, or Glenn Jacobs, put the invitation out to Walz during the presidential election. And we still haven't had a response, but hey, Walz sure wants to go back out and fight J.D. Vance instead. I want to see Walz get in the ring with Kane. Exhibition, not exposition. Thank you, Thorpe. And lastly, on things that I hate, from NPR, as the U.S. bids adieu to the World Health Organization, California says hello. Yes, California tried to join the WHO unilaterally, and then got reminded very quickly that, no, you can't form treaties outside of the U.S. government, so you can't go back and join. Now, they are joining the research wing of the WHO and providing research into disease. Unfortunately, some of that is going to be very partisan as well, but they're doing something at least somewhat effective, so. Alright, now let's do a couple things that I like. One thing I want to go on with things that I like with this. When I dropped Ed Zed Redemption, the Monday show with Katie Zed, I started, well, I was hoping to. I didn't actually wind up getting started with it because wound up getting really busy with work and then moving and then taking a much, much more pressing job and not raising a family. But I had done so with the hope of going back to a novel that I'd started writing in 2018. I had been playing with the AIs for a little bit, trying to see what the hype is all about, and mostly I've been trying to do photorealistic images of video game characters. This is just a fun little exercise they can do, but I got an idea, and I loaded some of the scenes that I'd already written in the novel that I wrote into GPT, and I've been actually working a little bit back and forth with them and bouncing ideas off. Oddly enough, GPT is very, very good editor. They're not necessarily, well, the chatbot itself is not necessarily trying to tell me what to write in the story, but giving ideas of, hey, you can tighten these words up. Hey, here's this idea you explained to me. You can go this direction with this, and hey, here's another perspective of this. So I've been actually kind of liking the AI. I know that I wasn't 100% sold on it, and, well, Grok sucks from everything that I can see. Grok either needs a lot of tweaking or to get some of the partisanship out of it, but yeah, we've been going back and forth talking a little bit about what is going on with that, and I've been using it for other tools too, and trying to figure out some other things that we can do with it, but it's been better than I thought it could be, for sure. So still be wary of it because AI can do some crazy crap, and I hope that it doesn't turn Skynet on me, but You know, we might get a full novel out of this one. All right. Other things that I like, I found this video on Instagram.
Target, bring home the...
We'll get it to start again. But G.I. Joe Rogan, I just thought this was funny.
G.I. Joe Rogan! When the world needs answers, one man is asking the questions. Oh no, a hairless chimp is going after Marshall. G.I. Joe Rogan, move in! He's hurt. Initiate recovery protocol. Activate heat shot proteins in the Ways to Well playset. Quick heal with BPC 157. Get to work. It's time to uncover the truth.
How big was the craft?
Oh no, it's Alex Jones.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water.
G.I. Joe Rogan playset comes loaded with official On-It accessories. It also includes limited edition compound bow and realistic elk target. Bring home the full G.I. Joe Rogan playset today. Accessories sold separately. Batteries not included. Supplements not real. Do not take medical advice from a toy.
That's my favorite part of the list. Do not take medical advice from a toy. That was funny. All right, some other couple things that I like. GOP clears way for midterm convention, a break with modern political tradition. As I said before, let's not go into this saying stolen election, ballot fraud, 2020. Instead, why can't we go into this coming election talking about, hey, this is what we've done already for you. This is what we plan to do. I feel like that would be a lot more effective of a strategy when we're sitting here trying to figure out what we've done and what we do and where we go next. So I don't know how this convention is going to turn out. I know it requires a rules change from the RNC to have one in a non-presidential year because they're only supposed to have them in presidential years, but while I don't agree with a lot of the GOP platform, like, I think a lot of it is way, way, way overblown. I do also want to see where they want to go. I want to see their advertisement. Show me what it is you want to do without saying, evil Democrats, crazy liberals. So this could either turn out very well, or this could be a gigantic disaster. Leading a little bit towards gigantic disaster. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Plus Fanning says, Mayor of Knox, Tennessee. Yep. California just has too much money on their hands. Thorpe says the U.S. military is going to use Grok, I heard earlier this week. That's frightening. Considering what I've done with Grok, that's frightening. And Thorpe says, I would actually buy one of the G.I. Joe Rogans. Yeah, that was hilarious. All right, a couple more things that I like. Trump cites U.S. investment by tractor maker John Deere. Apparently, John Deere is going to go bring a bunch of jobs back stateside. The company said it will open 2 new U.S.-based facilities, each creating 150 jobs. Now, unfortunately, the way manufacturing goes at this point, huge 1,000-plus worker manufacturing facilities are not realistic anymore. But still coming in and creating 300 jobs with 2 new facilities that have, for the most part, sent jobs over to Japan was the big target for John Deere. I mean, that's 300 more people that are working that have the skill set and know what it is that they can do. So I'm ready to see that, plus all the maintenance work and everything else, the people who manufacture the machines that make the machines. That does have a ripple effect through the economy, so it's not the magic wand that he promised Obama that he had, but it's still a good idea. And lastly, I give credit where credit is due, no matter how much I hate the politician, and I can't stand Gavin Newsom. But when he gets a funny quip, I'll let him have it. I'll tell him about it. Newsom shows off knee pads for CEOs selling out to the Trump administration. We, in my industry, we call them promotion pads. Gavin Newsom said Thursday, he said the red knee pads were available to buy via the website he had created. He was going to say this in a speech at Davos, but his speech in Davos got canceled also. Gavin Newsom on Thursday showed off knee pads that he suggested were for leaders selling out to the Trump admin. Speaking at the WEF in Davos, Newsom said the red knee pads were available to buy via a website he'd created, which means he had some college staffer create. Speaking at the last round of knee pads sold out, just as our law firms are selling out, many American universities are selling out, and yes, many corporate leaders are selling out to this admin, Newsom said. These are available in bulk too, he said, holding up the knee pads, which showed Trump's signature. So, you got a good quip in. Your policies still suck. Quest says, I remember 4th of July parade I attended in the Thumb of Michigan. About half the parade was huge John Deere equipment. I think it was 2022. Alright. Well, I ran about 15 minutes longer than I wanted to, but it is that time. So, I got alfalfa hair going on back here. That's fun. Alright, I say let's switch out the title card. And let's throw the music up. And let's call it for the morning. Well, thank you everybody, including the new faces, Thorpe. I'm going to wring Spectrum's neck and figure out what it is that we're having problems with, because I guess I have noticed it a little bit more throughout the house as well. Just my Wi-Fi on my phone randomly disconnecting and middle of trying to look at something. Watch somebody rebuild the transmission on Instagram or something. But that's a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. We're going to head out of here for the day. Reminder, this live stream is going to be privated shortly after we are off the air. Once I get back from Mid-State, we're going to go back and put the episode back up as a recording, because I record everything because, well, internet sucks sometimes. And sometimes we lose frames and everything else, so I don't want that to affect what goes on to the YouTube. So, for that, if you want to carry us on the go, we also have... We're on all your major podcatchers, so go back and find the one that's your favorite. Pandora, Spotify, Apple. I'm on all of them, so you can go back and take us on the audio platform. You just won't get to see the cool videos, including stuff like G.I. Joe Rogan. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Bye-bye.